A very good morning to all the viewers and the webinar team. I have the privilege to introduce Mrs. SHAITAZ BEGUM, who is the postgraduate teacher in political science at Telangana Model School, Dhanwada, Narayanpet. She's a part of Telangana Model School since 2013, the year in which the school's inception has happened. And she has a vast experience in teaching. In addition to the 8 years experience in model schools, she served in 2 corporate schools prior to joining model schools. One, that is Johnson Grammar School at Nacharam, Secunderabad, and the Global Indian International School at Uppal, Hyderabad. So she has a vast experience. I look forward for all the students to make optimum utilization of her expertise and experience. Over to Mrs. SHAITAZ for conducting the session. Good luck, Mrs. SHAITAZ.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, viewers. My subject coordinator, Mr. A. Ram Prasad, sir, has introduced you. Let me also introduce myself again. I'm Mrs. SHAITAZ, PGT Political Science, TSMS, Dhanwada, Narayanpet district. Today, I'm here to conduct a session for Political Science, second year Political Science for Chapter 1, Indian Constitution, Historical Context. In this chapter, we are going to discuss the subtopic called Sources and Salient Features of Indian Constitution. Now, before we proceed to the main topic of this chapter, first let us know what is the meaning of the word constitution. We might have heard this word many times. This word, when we hear it, it looks very simpler. But this word constitution has a very deeper meaning. Without this constitution, a country cannot function. It cannot govern itself. So let us know what is constitution. What does it actually mean? Constitution is a supreme law of a country, the law which governs our nation. It is important because it expresses the aspirations of people. It tells us how people are governed. It can also be a document which laid down the framework, demarcating different rules and regulations for the government institutions. It can also be helpful in achieving the national goals. So now we have understood briefly what is the meaning of the term constitution. Now, the Indian freedom fighters or the framers of Indian Constitution, they had a Herculean task to frame the Indian Constitution in such a way that it has to cater to the needs of millions of Indian people. India being a land of multilingual and multi-religious, they have to see to it that it not only meets to the present generation but also the future generation. So here we are going to discuss some of the important sources of Indian Constitution and also some factors which were kept in mind while Constitution was framed in India. Our Constitution framers, they kept in mind the historical, geographical and cultural and traditional aspects and characteristics of India while framing the Indian Constitution, because that was very, very essential. It has to meet the demands of millions of people and the people has to accept the Constitution. So now here, let us see, here you can see the glance of making of Indian Constitution. This Constitution, making of Indian Constitution, Constituent Assembly, the Constitution of India was formulated by Constituent Assembly, and the first Constituent Assembly meeting was held on 9th December 1946, as here you can see on the screen. The Constituent Assembly members were elected members, and for this first meeting of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Sachidananda Sharma was its nominated chairman. Then For this Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as President. The Constituent Assembly, it has constituted many committees for framing of Indian Constitution. One such committee was Drafting Committee, which was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Finally, the Constitution was drafted and it was ratified on 26th November 1949. It took precisely 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to make the final draft of the Constitution. And officially, the Constitution was adopted and came into effect on 26 January 1950. So here this was a glance of making of Indian Constitution. Now, let us see from which countries' constitution were referred to adopt some specific features to our Indian Constitution. Before framing the Constitution, our Constitution framers, they have referred the Constitution of many countries and they have adopted those features or those provisions to Indian Constitution which will suit a democratic country like India. Now here this table illustrates us the different provisions and the source from which these provisions are adopted or incorporated in our Indian Constitution. Here you can see these provisions are taken from the United States Constitution into our Indian Constitution. Now let us discuss these provisions briefly one by one. The first you can see here is the word preamble. What is this word preamble? Preamble is the key to the interpretation of Constitution. It can also be called a preface or an introduction to the Constitution. It is a key to understand the Constitution, to interpret the Constitution. It reflects the aims, aspirations, and noble objectives of our people. It starts with the word, we the people of India. With this, we can know that people of India are given high importance here while framing the Indian Constitution. Now let us go to the second provision, fundamental rights. This fundamental rights, they are incorporated in our Indian Constitution in part 3 of our Indian Constitution and they have also been adopted from the United States. What are these fundamental rights? Every citizen of India is entitled for certain fundamental rights. These fundamental rights are very essential for the development of an individual. An individual cannot live a dignified and honorable life in the absence of rights. So they are very essential for the growth of an individual. So they had this provision is adopted from United States Constitution. The next feature is Electoral College. Electoral College is that body which elects the President of India. The President of India is elected by a body called Electoral College. Now, what is this Electoral College? Who constitutes the Electoral College or who forms this college? The members of both the houses of parliament and the elected members of state legislative assembly and the members of elected members of union territories like Delhi and Judiciary. These constitute the electoral college and the President of India is elected through the process of single transferable vote. The next provision which we have adopted from United States in Constitution again is independence of judiciary. To understand this, first we should know what is the meaning of the word judiciary first. Judiciary is one of the organs of the government. We have three important organs of the government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. What is the function of legislature? Legislature is a law-making organ of our government. Executive implements those laws, and judiciary, it dispenses justice through courts. Here, independence of judiciary means judiciary is neither answerable to legislature nor to executive. It functions on its own. It is neither under the control of legislature nor under the control of executive. It is independent to give its decisions according to the Constitution of India. The next is judicial review. Now, what is this judicial review? Judicial review is that power of the Supreme Court through which it can declare a law void or null if it is found to be unconstitutional. Any law which is made either by the central government or the state government, it can be declared not valid, null, if it is against the constitution. Then comes the next provision. President acts as the supreme commander of armed forces. The President of India, he acts as the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces of India. Next provision which we have adopted from United States Constitution is equal protection under law. Every citizen, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, and gender, has equal protection under law. He or she can demand equal protection. Now here we can see the next provisions. The first provision you can see here is citizenship. India gives a single citizenship, integrated citizenship. This provision also we have adopted from the United States. Single citizenship, it is given to any person of India who is born in India or resides in India for a specific period of time. And this is done to maintain the unity and integrity of the nation. The next provision which we are going to discuss are writs. W-R-I-T-S. It is pronounced writs. W is silent here. Now, writ. What is this writ? A writ can be called a remedy. If you want to remember it in a one keyword, you can understand it as remedy. If we have to define this word writ, what is this? A writ is a formal written order. A writ is a formal written order issued by a court having an authority to issue such an order. Having an authority to issue such an order. They are called writs. Now we can see here we have 5 kinds of writs. The first one is habeas corpus. Second, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quo warranto. All these 5 writs are Latin words. They are Latin words. Now let us discuss these writs one by one. Habeas corpus, that means to have a body. What does it literally means? It literally means that a person cannot be forced to stay in a prison or a jail. Before that he has to be produced before the court. Before producing him before the court of law, he cannot be retained in the custody. That is called habeas corpus. He cannot be forced to be in the custody without any valid reason. First, he has to be produced before the court of law. The next writ we are going to discuss is mandamus. Mandamus means we command. Here, the court commands or compels someone to execute their duty for which they are legally bound to. If the person is not performing his duty of public office, the court issues such writs to perform his or her duty. The next writ is prohibition. Prohibition, it is a writ issued by the higher court to a lower court for not taking up the cases which are not under their jurisdiction. The lower courts should not hear the cases which are not under their jurisdiction. That is called prohibition. It prohibits them. The next is certiorari. Here, certiorari means a writ issued by the higher court again to the lower court to deliver its record of a case so that it can review its judgment. In short, certiorari means it is a power of the high courts to check the judgments of the lower courts in some specific cases. Then coming to the next writ, quo warranto. Quo warranto means by what authority? It is issued with a view to restrain a person from holding a public office if he or she is not entitled to. That means by what the court can question the person, by what authority he has entitled the office. So these writs, the provision of these writs, we have adopted from the United States Constitution. The next comes rule of law. What is rule of law? Rule of law is nothing but the supremacy of the law is shown here. We are ruled neither by a person or a set of persons. We are ruled only by law. Everyone is equal before law. This provision is taken again from the United States. The next provision is impeachment of president. Impeachment of president means removal of president from his office before his term of expire. From his office, that is before 5 years. Here, the president can be removed by a process called impeachment. For this, majority 2/3 of both the houses should send a resolution, and if a resolution is passed in lower house and is sent for verification to the upper house, then the upper house constitutes a committee, and if the charges against the president are proved, then from that day onwards he stands removed from his office. That is called impeachment of president. So this feature also we have adopted from the United States Constitution. The next provision we see, that is removal of judges of Supreme Court and High Court. The judges of Supreme Court and High Courts can be removed only by the President of India. Only he is authorized to remove them on the grounds of misbehavior or on the grounds of corruption or negligence towards their duties. The next provision is functions of Vice President. Vice President, he acts as President in the absence of President, and this feature also we have adopted from United States of Constitution to Indian Constitution. Here, the Vice President of India, he acts as the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. He presides over the meeting of Rajya Sabha and sees that the house discipline and decorum is maintained. Now here also you can see some provisions and you can see the source here. These provisions are taken from the source Canadian Constitution. We have adopted these provisions from Canadian Constitution. The first provision what we have adopted from Canadian Constitution is federal system. India is a federal system, a federal government with strong center. What is this federal government? India follows a policy of demarcating the powers between the center and the state governments. State government have been given their independence for their self-rule with legislative assemblies. The powers between the center and the states have been very, very vividly demarcated in the Constitution of India. Next are residuary powers. Residuary powers in the center. What do you mean by residuary powers? Residuary powers means those powers of parliament. That means the parliament is entitled to make laws for the subjects which are not enumerated either in the concurrent list or in the state list. Such powers are called residuary powers. The next provision, appointment of governors in states by the center. Here the President of India is entitled, he is the authority to appoint the governors in the state. Next provision which we have adopted from Canada Constitution is advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can advise the President of India on matters of any law pertaining to law or where the interpretation of Constitution is needed. So they can advise the President of India. So that is the advisory function of Supreme Court. Hope you are just listening very carefully this session. The next provision we are going to discuss is principle of cooperative federalism, freedom of interstate, concurrent list, joint sitting of two houses of parliament. All these four features are taken from the Austria Constitution. Now you can see here principle of cooperative federalism. What is this cooperative federalism? What do you mean by this principle of cooperative federalism? Cooperative federalism means nothing but the state and the local governments interact cooperatively and collectively to solve the problems of the state. Instead of framing different policies separately, they both collectively frame the policies so that the state can reach developmental goals. Next provision, freedom of interstate trade. Trade and commerce are very important things. This, according to this provision, the freedom of international and interstate trade is given. The source is this constitution. The next is concurrent list. What is this concurrent list? The legislative system of India is divided into three: union list, state list, and concurrent list. Concurrent list is that list in which almost 52 items are mentioned. The subjects in this list are mentioned, and both the union government and the state government is entitled to make laws for these subjects. Subjects like education, marriage, trade unions, and forests. These are some subjects included in the concurrent list. For this concurrent list, both the central government and the state government can make laws. The next important provision is joint sitting of the two houses of parliament. Joint sitting of the two houses of parliament. When does this happen? This happens when either of the house is not agreeing with the resolution passed by the other house. In such case, the president summons joint sitting of two houses of parliament if there is an disagreement on a bill. That is called joint sitting of the parliament. The next provision, directive principles of state policy and nominating the members of Rajya Sabha. These two provisions have been adopted from Ireland Constitution to Indian Constitution. Directive principles of state policy. What are these directive principles of state policy? Are there any rights? No. Directive principles of state policy are some guidelines issued to the government. They are enshrined in the Part 4 of Indian Constitution. They aim at providing socio-economic justice to all the citizens of India. And they are a set of guidelines to government in order to achieve a welfare state. We have three types of directive principles of state policy. They are divided into three: socialist, Gandhian, and liberal. These are the three types of principles of state, directive principles of state policy, which we are going to study in the second chapter of your syllabus in detail. The next provision is nominating the members of Rajya Sabha. The President of India is empowered to nominate 12 members to Rajya Sabha. Apart from nominating 2 Anglo-Indians to Lok Sabha, he is empowered to nominate 12 members to Rajya Sabha. So whom will he nominate? He will nominate such persons which have special knowledge in matters like literature, art, sports, science, and other areas. Such persons are nominated by the members, by the President to Rajya Sabha. The next provisions which we'll discuss now is Republic, Liberty, Equality, and Fraternity in the Preamble. These two provisions have been adopted from France Constitution. Republic, what is Republic? Republican country means the country where the head is elected by the people. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. These are the three words which are added in the preamble. And these three words have been adopted from the French Constitution. Let us proceed to the next provision. Fundamental duties. Idea of socio-economic and political justice in preamble. These two provisions have been adopted from Russian Constitution. Fundamental duties. Like how we have fundamental rights, we also have fundamental duties. Rights and duties are the two sides of the same coins. So fundamental duties have been adopted from Russian Constitution. Every citizen of India has a set of fundamental duties to be done towards state. And this concept was added by 42nd Amendment. Idea of social, economic, and political justice in preamble. Socio-economic and political justice. What does it mean? Social economic justice means removing inequalities. Social justice, equal opportunities in the society. And political justice means it stands for creating equal opportunities in the decision making or in the administrative process. The next provision is procedure for amendment and election of Rajya Sabha members. These two have been adopted from the South Africa Constitution. Here, the procedure for amendment. What is this word amendment? Amendment means a slight modification to the existing law. So till now, our constitution has made 104 amendments. Amendments are very essential to cater and to meet the demands of the present people and to tackle the present situation. So compulsorily amendments has to be done to the existing laws. So this procedure for amendment has been taken, different procedures from South African Constitution. And election of Rajya Sabha members. Rajya Sabha members election is indirect election. Members representing states are elected by the elected members of state legislative assemblies. So here we can see here some more provisions are there which have been adopted from different countries' constitution, like Germany, Japan, and Government of India Act 1935. You can see here emergency powers of the president. This feature has been adopted from Germany Constitution, and suspension of fundamental rights during an emergency. This is also taken from Germany Constitution. What are these emergency powers of the president? Emergency powers. The Indian Constitution empowers the president to proclaim three kinds of emergencies: national emergency, constitutional emergency, and financial emergency. According to Article 352, national emergency, the president proclaims when there is national emergency, that when there is an threat, internal or external threat, he can declare a national emergency. Constitutional emergency is declared by the president when it is reported by the governor of a particular state. Then that particular state comes under the direct rule of president, which we can call president's rule. Then comes the financial emergency. Financial emergency can be declared only by the president if the country is going through financial crisis. In such financial emergency, the salaries of the state government employees can be deducted, and also certain allowances can be deducted. The next feature is suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. During the period of emergency, fundamental rights are suspended. Suspended means we cannot avail them for a short period till we get back to the normal situation. The next provision which we have adopted from Japan Constitution is procedure established by law. What is this procedure established by law? It means that a law is duly enacted by the legislature or the concerned body. It is valid only if it has followed the correct procedure. Then only it is called procedure established by law. Then the federal scheme, the federal court, public service commission. These three provisions have been taken from the Government of India Act. The Government of India Act has formed the basis, a reference point for constitution, for framing the constitution. The federal scheme was adopted from this. That means India has adopted the federal government, that is division of powers between the central government and the state government. Very clearly the powers are divided between the center and the state government. Federal Court. What is this Federal Court? Federal Court of India was a judicial body which was established in India in 1937 under the Government of India Act 1935 with original, appellate and advisory jurisdiction. This federal court functioned till Supreme Court was established in India in 1950. The next provision which we have adopted from Government of India Act is Public Service Commission. This Public Service Commission was called Federal Public Service Commission. Now today's Union Public Service Commissions. What is the service commissions? Why are they essential? They are essential because they are responsible for making appointments and conducting exams for all India services. So here we have discussed some important provisions, and we have also discussed the sources from where these provisions have been adopted to our Indian Constitution. Now let us discuss important aspect of our Indian Constitution, that is Preamble of the Indian Constitution. Here you can see the Preamble of the Indian Constitution. You can see here very clearly this preamble. This is the Preamble of Indian Constitution. You can see here few texts have been highlighted in capital letters so that you can understand that they are important. We, the people of India, you can see here that the preamble of India starts with we, the people of India. That means it is giving high importance to the people of India while framing the Indian Constitution. You can see here different words like sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, and also justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. These all words are mentioned in caps because they are important in preamble. They are keywords to the preamble. So now let us discuss these keywords of the preamble briefly. You can see here the first word, sovereign. Our preamble of India proclaims that India is a sovereign state. Sovereign means it has its own independent authority. It cannot be governed or it cannot be under the control of any other power. It has its own territories and it has its own authority. That is the meaning of sovereign power. Socialist. The word socialist was added to the preamble by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. Democratic socialism holds mixed economy. Mixed economy means where public and private sectors exist side by side. It exists side by side so that it can generate employment and also remove economic inequalities and also tackle the problems like poverty, hunger, and ignorance. Then comes very important word to our preamble, secular. The term secular means all the religions in India gets equal respect, protection, and support from the state. India has not adopted any religion as its official religions. It guarantees freedom of religion as a fundamental right. So India is a secular state. The term democratic, the term democratic has a bigger meaning. It means that the government gets its authority from the people because democracy is that form of government which is made by the people. They are people's elected representative and they govern us through constitution. So democracy is a government which is made by people. It is made by people. So we can also call it people's government. The next term which we can see here is the word republic. This is also a key word, one of the key words in the preamble of Indian Constitution. Republic. What is republic? Here republic means the head of the state is elected directly or indirectly by the people. Here the president of India is elected indirectly by the people, that is through their representatives which are there in the legislative assemblies. The next word, justice. The term justice, it gives us three different forms of justice like socio-economic and political. Social justice getting equal status and opportunity. Economic justice, removing economic inequalities and tackling the issue of injustice. Political justice, giving equal opportunities in administration also. And these are the various provisions through different terms of preamble. Then let us see what does this term liberty means. Liberty, the word liberty means to be free. That means here absence of restrictions. Absence of restrictions such as slavery, serfdom, and also here restrictions from different sources. We are free to from such things like slavery and serfdom. Equality here. Equality means the absence of privileges or discrimination to any particular section of society. Everyone should be equal before law, irrespective of religion, caste, or gender. Everyone is equal before law. Now you can see here two particular images. They are very clearly describing us the concept of equality. Fraternity, the feeling of oneness. This particular concept develops and promotes the feeling of oneness, which is very important for achieving unity and integrity of the nation, because unity is very much needed for the country's development. In absence of unity, we are not reaching our national goals. So till here we have discussed the important keywords which were added in the preamble of Indian Constitution. Now let us move to the next topic, salient features of Constitution. Our Indian Constitution has a set of salient features. Now let us discuss them briefly, one after the other. The first feature you can see here is written and detailed Constitution. Our Indian Constitution is written. Constitution can be written or non-written. It has two forms. Our Indian Constitution is written and detailed Constitution. In fact, it is called the elephant-sized Constitution. It is the lengthiest Constitution of the world, lengthiest and bulkiest Constitution of the world. Because even the finest points are discussed in detail. They are discussed, and before it got effective, each and every feature of Constitution and every law of Constitution has been debated, and then only it is finalized. So our Indian Constitution is written and is very detailed Constitution, like fundamental rights are included, fundamental duties, and different powers, demarcating the powers between the central government and the state governments, and laws related to centers, laws related to different legislative divisions like union list, state list, and concurrent list. Everything is very clearly mentioned in the Constitution. That is why it is very bulkiest and detailed Constitution. The next salient feature is self-made and enacted Constitution. Our Constitution is enacted Constitution. It is not evolved, because our Constitution is the result of serious deliberations made by Constituent Assembly. Many things were kept in mind while the Constitution has been framed. It is not the work which has been done or completed in few days. The next feature, an important feature of Constitution, is Preamble. Now we have discussed Preamble very briefly just before this. Preamble is an introduction to the Indian Constitution, a preface to the Indian Constitution. Now here we can see Constitution is a mixture of rigidity and flexibility. What is rigidity and flexibility? Rigidity means which cannot be mended easily. Flexibility, which can be mended easily. Here, our Constitution is a mixture of rigidity and flexibility. Laws which can be mended easily and which cannot be amended easily. That means they are called rigid. Then the next important feature we have in Constitution is directive principles of state policy. We have discussed this earlier. These are certain guidelines which are given to the government to rule the state, how to govern the state, and how to make it a welfare state. We have three types of directive principles: liberal, Gandhian, and socialist principles. The next important feature of Constitution is fundamental rights. We have 6 fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 fundamental rights which are given to each and every citizen of India, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, or gender. Each and every citizen of India can enjoy these fundamental rights, which are very essential for the development of a citizen. The next feature is fundamental duties. Every citizen, as we have been enjoying the privilege of rights, we should also perform certain duties. So those duties are mentioned in fundamental duties. The next feature is single citizenship. India grants single citizenship, that is national citizenship, to promote unity and integrity of the nation. Universal adult franchise. What does this mean? This means that every person who has attained a specific age, for India it is 18 years, a person who has attained 18 years of age is entitled to vote without any discrimination. India follows bicameralism. That means the parliament here has 2 houses: Lok Sabha, lower house, and Rajya Sabha, upper house. Panchayat Raj and Nagar Palikas. This was added through 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. What was the main intention to act this Panchayat Raj institutions and Nagar Palikas? The main intention to start this was to enhance grassroots democracy through which people can participate in decision making. So that is why they have been introduced through 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. Special provisions relating to SC and ST, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Some special provisions have been given to these depressed classes because when under the Britishers, these people, they have gone through a lot of injustice. To compensate for that injustice, some special provisions were given for these people so that they can also come up. They can also reach developmental goals. The next important salient feature of Constitution is mixture of federalism and unitarism. India has unitary features and also federal features. Unitary features, it has integrated judiciary, it has single election commission, and it has single citizenship. At the same time, it also follows the concept of federalism, like it gives powers to the center and also the state governments. We have state governments here who follow self-rule. Then independence of judiciary. Here judiciary, it functions on its own without the involvement of legislature and judiciary. Now, through this chapter, we have discussed what is Indian Constitution, what are the different sources of Indian Constitution, preamble of Constitution, and salient features of Indian Constitution. Hope so you have this session was very informative to you and knowledge giving to you. If you have any doubts, you can drop it in the message box. Okay. Thank you, viewers. Thank you once again.
SHAITAZ madam, thank you very much. It was a wonderful session, and it was actually you gave a wonderful information about the salient features of Indian Constitution. So hope the students understood it thoroughly and they posted some queries in chats. I hope. Otherwise, also I think if some time space, please try to conduct one more session on the same topic. Thank you very much. Thank you all
Okay,
the
sir.
students.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Shall I leave, sir?
Yeah, ma'am, you can leave.
Okay. Thank